The 2021 WWE Draft is set to take place on the October 1st episode of Friday Night SmackDown and the October 4th episode of Monday Night Raw. This is one of the most exciting times for wrestling fans from year to year, but WWE seem to fumble the ball whenever they have the opportunity to really change and freshen up the landscape of weekly programming in the WWE. We discuss on this podcast who will go from Raw to SmackDown, who will go from SmackDown to Raw, and most importantly, who will make the jump to NXT 2.0. So without any further ado, let's get this started with Raw. The first pick for Monday Night Raw is member of the New Day and new WWE Champion in Big E. This should really come as no surprise to anybody. He just defeated Bobby Lashley after that brief history between Lashley and Kofi Kingston over the WWE title. He was almost getting revenge for his New Day team member in Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and this just makes sense. They're not going to take Roman Reigns off of SmackDown. There would really be no reason to take Roman off of SmackDown, so Big E is definitely the best option for the first pick on Monday Night Raw, after winning the Money in the Bank contract on the SmackDown brand and cashing in on Raw. The second overall pick for Monday Night Raw should be none other than the Rated R superstar and the 2021 WWE Royal Rumble winner in Edge. Edge just makes sense. I know he debuted and came back at the 2020 Royal Rumble, and he started on the Raw brand with that brief feud, or that, I wouldn't say brief, but that long feud with Randy Orton. He went over to SmackDown, had a run-in with Roman Reigns, a match with Roman and Daniel Bryan, and then a feud with Seth Rollins where he seemingly got written off, so to speak. I feel like Edge going back to Raw could open up some very interesting matchups, including some of the draft picks, which we're going to discuss very shortly, possibly a WWE title match with Big E, or a renewal of the feud with Orton. I do feel like the Rated R superstar should have at least one more World Championship reign before he decides to call it quits after this, astronomical and shocking return to in-ring competition, which we never thought was going to happen. So I do not think that would happen on the Blue brand on Friday nights. So Monday Night Raw is the best option for him to at least get another chance and possibly have another world title reign. Following this is the King of Strong Style, King Nakamura, the current WWE Intercontinental Champion, alongside with Rick Boogs, his quote-unquote manager. He is not pictured here, but I think Nakamura needs to make the jump over to Monday Night Raw. I thought that Nakamura going to Raw in last year's draft was a good option, and now that he's back as a face, he has his original theme back, he's the Intercontinental Champion. I think that there are a lot more fresh feuds he could do on Monday Night Raw, including possibly an Intercontinental Championship match with the likes of Matt Riddle, who's one half of the WWE Raw Tag Team Champions, and RK Bro. And I just think there's a lot more options. I think Nakamura versus Edge is a great idea. Nakamura versus Orton, and a callback from one of his original feuds on Friday Night SmackDown. So Nakamura and the Intercontinental Championship to Raw is a great idea for pick number 3. Up next for Monday Night Raw in a what some would call surprising pick for pick number 4 is the former NXT Tag Team Champions, 2/3 of Imperium, in Marcel Barthel and Fabian Eichner. I think they need to make the jump up to the main roster. I think along with another draft pick we're going to get to right after this, Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel are two extremely talented tag team wrestlers. They have really, really solid chemistry in the ring. They've had great matches with the likes of the Grizzled Young Veterans, MSK, and Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher, just to name a few. And I think that bringing them up to the main roster as a new tag team on the Monday Night Raw brand is definitely a breath of fresh air and something that I'm looking to accomplish with this draft, which is fresh faces, a new look, and a new feel to weekly television. So pick number 4 is Imperium, 2/3 of Imperium in Marcel Barthel and Fabian Eichner to Monday Night Raw. Pick number 5, and who did you expect? The former longtime reigning defending NXT UK champion who just lost his belt to Ilya Dragunov at NXT TakeOver 36 after defeating who was formerly the longest reigning NXT United Kingdom champion in the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne. that is Walter. I think Walter on Monday Night Raw is a great pick. I think it's what Vince McMahon likes, a big guy. You know, he's a big dude. He's not the most athletically or aesthetically pleasing guy on this roster, but he's a stiff competitor. He goes balls to the wall. He can move around like somebody half his weight. And I think Walter and Imperium running roughshod on Monday nights is a fantastic pick. It would bring shockwaves to the Monday Night Raw brand. It would really give that new creative breath of fresh air that, like I said, I'm looking to give in this draft for 2021. So I love Walter as the next pick. I think Walter versus Big E for the title. I think Walter going after the Intercontinental Championship. I think Walter versus Bobby Lashley. There's so many things he can do on Monday nights, and I love that pick for pick number 5. Up next is the Queen of the Skies, the former NXT Women's Champion. That is Io Shirai. I just think she's done everything there is to do on the NXT brand. I think even with this NXT 2.0 and this new breath of fresh air for the NXT show weekly programming, I still think she's done, like I said, everything you can do as a diva and as a women's superstar, I should say, on the NXT brand on Tuesday nights. So I love Io Shirai. I think her on Monday Night Raw, her gimmick, her entrance, her style would fit so well. So I would move her to Monday nights, and I think she would bring a jolt of energy to that women's division. Up next for the next pick is Apollo Crews. I just think he's better off on Monday Night Raw. He just lost the Intercontinental Championship to Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, I know I moved the King of Strong Style over to Monday Night Raw, so moving Apollo along with him really doesn't make any sense because it would seem to continue the feud, but I just like Apollo. I don't think he has to go after that Intercontinental Championship. I think he can make his way up the upper mid-card and maybe into the main event with this new Nigerian Prince, Nation of Domination style of gimmick. With Babatunde as his manager. I believe that's who his manager is. So I like the idea, and I think Apollo would do wonders for him to go to Monday Night Raw and work this new character and this new heel gimmick on another show. So, like I said, breath of fresh air. I think this does it for Apollo. The next pick for me is a women's superstar and that I don't think a lot of people talk about. I don't hear a lot of people talk about, and that is Kacy Catanzaro. I think Kacy Catanzaro as a new introduction into the Raw women's division is a great idea. I think whether it's Raw or SmackDown, she would do wonders on either show. She had a great showing in, I believe it was the 2018 Royal Rumble, the one that Asuka won and then Nakamura won the Men's Rumble. She had a great showing there. I think her high-flying style, her acrobatics and everything would just really do well on Monday Night Raw. I think it would give a new look to the women's division, and that's what we're trying to do, right, is give these rosters a new feel and a new look. So I think Kacy Catanzaro, as one of the first women to switch shows and go to Monday Night Raw from NXT, is a great idea. So Kacy Catanzaro would be my next pick. Up next is the Mysterios, Dominik and Rey Mysterio, moving from SmackDown over to Monday Night Raw. I think it's time for them to switch shows. I think that they did really good work on, I think they did really good work on SmackDown, with the feud with the Bloodline, with the Usos, and I don't want to see that feud again, and I kind of feel like that's the only place they would go in terms of a feud for the tag team titles. So I think going over to Raw, you've got RK Bro, you've got Imperium, like I said. I just think it's a great idea. So I would move the Mysterios over to Raw and just give them some new teams, like I said. Give them new people to face. Give them fresh feuds and fresh matches. And my final pick for Monday Night Raw is the Swiss Cyborg, the Swiss Superman in Cesaro. Now, I know a lot of people are probably going to say, well, why would you move Cesaro from SmackDown to Raw? He faced Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. He had a great main event feud. He did, which is why I'm going to move him, because I think Cesaro versus Big E, I think Cesaro working his way up that upper mid-card and then going into a feud against whoever the WWE Champion is at the time, whenever that may be, is something that fans would want to see. And I think now that he's had that exposure and we've had that taste of him in the main event scene, moving him to Raw, giving him new feuds, and making him work up the main event to the WWE title is, in the words of Triple H and the Authority, what's best for business. Cesaro to Monday nights for the final pick of Raw. We're moving to SmackDown, baby! And who better to kick it off for us than Drew McIntyre, the Scottish psychopath, the 2020 WWE Royal Rumble winner, the former reigning defending WWE champion, making his way over to Friday Night SmackDown. Pretty self-explanatory here. I mean, there's really no reason why he wouldn't move to SmackDown. I thought there was an opportunity for him to possibly jump ship last year during the WWE Draft, but I think McIntyre moving to SmackDown, potentially maybe working in a little bit of a heelish style, maybe getting his Broken Dreams theme song back that fans have wanted for so long, potentially sticking with Dolph Ziggler. Maybe they can rekindle that friendship and work in a heel tag team, because I think that Drew's work in a tag team with Dolph Ziggler is some of the best work he did in his entire career in the WWE, so it's something I'd love to see, and I think that him moving to Friday nights is just the best option. There's no reason to keep him on Raw, and he's not going to go to NXT. And obviously, you can run a championship program with the current reigning defending Universal Champion and the Tribal Chief in Roman Reigns, because they had a feud going back and forth. They had a great match at Survivor Series last year, which Roman won, and that feud never really got closure. So I think that running back Drew versus Roman is the best idea. So the first pick for Friday nights is Drew McIntyre. The second pick for Friday Night SmackDown is the current United States Champion, the Archer of Infamy, Damian Priest. I think Priest I can't even talk. I think Priest fits the SmackDown brand and just the whole overall feel of Friday Night SmackDown. With that U.S. title, I think he fits that to a T. We already moved Nakamura in the Intercontinental Championship over to Monday nights, so now they need a mid-card title since their mid-card champion got switched. So Priest over to SmackDown. He is one of my most wanted picks. He is one of my most wanted individuals to go over to Friday Night SmackDown. I just think he can do wonders. I think he can work his way up to the main event. I think him and Roman Reigns down the line, obviously not now because he's not ready yet, but him and Roman Reigns down the line can run just a beautiful feud. I think him and another draft pick that I have on here can run a great feud over that United States title. So why don't we move to that next pick? But overall, Damian Priest to Friday Night SmackDown. And my next pick for Friday nights is the charismatic enigma, the former WWE champion, the master of the twist of fate and the swanton bomb, Jeff Nero Hardy. I think Jeff Hardy over to SmackDown is 100% needed. I think that everyone and their mom wants to see Jeff Hardy succeed in the WWE. He has one of the most loyal, one of the most electric fan bases in the entirety of professional wrestling and definitely in the WWE universe. So there's no reason why he has, moved down to the WWE 24/7 championship picture. There's absolutely no reason for that. I think he needs to work his way up to that mid-card, get a mid-card title, which is why I said that Damian Priest would be feuding with another competitor on this list, and that would be Jeff Hardy. I think Priest versus Hardy would be an amazing feud. They had a decent match on Monday Night Raw already, so you could work that into, the first feud post-brand split, Jeff Hardy versus Damian Priest for the United States Championship. I think given the opportunity to really shine, Jeff Hardy can work his way up to the main event scene. He can face Roman Reigns for the Universal title. Reigns versus Hardy's amazing. I just think that Jeff Hardy desperately needs to go to SmackDown, and they need to treat him like the main event talent that he is. The fourth pick for Friday Night SmackDown is Angel Garza. Some people have called him the reincarnation and the younger version of Eddie Guerrero. I mean, there's a lot of people who have a lot of hopes and very high hopes for this man in Angel Garza. I think he can work very well in the mid-card. I think he needs to be given a refresh. He needs to be given something else to do in his career because he's literally not doing anything. I mean, he had a brief thing going on with Zelina Vega after Andrade left the WWE. Obviously, Andrade and Angel Garza were working in a team managed by Zelina Vega, and then it was Angel Garza and Austin Theory, but I just think that Angel Garza can do so much more, so I think a refresh and a brand swap for him to go to Friday nights is a great idea, and it would add a lot to that mid-card division. Up next is the former NXT World Champion, former NXT North American Champion, and former NXT Tag Team Champion in Johnny Wrestling. Johnny Gargano finally getting called up to the main roster after what seems like an eternity, and like NXT never wanted to let him go. Gargano needs to be called up. I mean, it's simple as that. We don't have to sit here and spend hours on it. There's literally nothing left for him to do in NXT. There's no reason for him to go after a mid-card title. There's no reason for him to get into a tag team and have his faction, The Way, go after an NXT tag team title. I mean, he doesn't have to team up with Austin Theory. There's nothing left for Gargano to do. Even in NXT 2.0, I think NXT 2.0 doesn't need Johnny Wrestling. I think we need to go to Johnny SmackDown, and he needs to get called up. He needs to be on Friday nights, and he needs to work in some great matches with the likes of, I don't know, think of Johnny Gargano versus Jeff Hardy. Think of Johnny Gargano versus any members of the New Day. Think of Johnny Gargano versus Roman Reigns, Johnny Gargano versus one of the Usos, Johnny Gargano versus, I mean, anybody and everybody on that SmackDown roster Gargano can get a good match out of. I think he needs to go up, and I think the next pick needs to follow him up there as well. That next pick being the Poison Princess, Johnny Gargano's wife, and his partner in crime in Candice LeRae. She would add to that the SmackDown women's division. She could be a good manager, a great manager for Gargano. We can get Johnny and Candice working, and we could get those vignettes and those segments that we got when they were at the top of NXT. It just needs to happen. Gargano and Candice to SmackDown. Next up on the list is the Viking Raiders. Eric and Ivar, formerly known as War Machine. They need a change of pace. They need to get booked like they matter. When they were in NXT, they were monsters. They were absolutely vicious, and they meant so much more, which is something we often say with a lot of NXT call-ups, because once they get to the main roster, that's where they go to fizzle out and become irrelevant. But the Viking Raiders on SmackDown, it would add to the SmackDown tag division, but they need to go up there. They need a change of pace, and they need to matter again in tag team wrestling, because they are one of, if not some of the best tag team wrestlers, and have one of the best looks and dynamics in the whole WWE tag division. So it goes without saying, Eric and Ivar, the Viking Raiders, move and get drafted to Friday Night SmackDown. Up next, we need to save this man. Karrion Kross, but not just Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross with the main roster debut of his wife, or his girlfriend in real life, and his mouthpiece, or his manager, in Scarlett. Scarlett and Karrion Kross need to get moved over to Friday Night SmackDown. You saw Karrion Kross working this new Sean O'Haire style of gimmick where he's like reborn, but he's like bringing the darkness and the wickedness to Friday Night SmackDown, like O'Haire did back in, I want to say 2003. That's when Sean O'Haire had a little brief stint and looked like he was going to go up to be a main eventer. Rest in peace, Sean O'Haire. You know, just got to get that out there. But I think Karrion Kross alongside Scarlett, bring back his old theme song, have Scarlett come out, sing the theme song with him, and have them work their way up to the SmackDown main event, which I don't think will take that long, because Karrion Kross is a star in the making. He was a star in NXT. He can be a dominant force. He can be the most dominant force on Friday nights. So they need to change his gimmick, get him out of this stupid gladiator demolition style bullshit, bring Scarlett up with him, have her make her main roster debut as his manager like she was in NXT, and Scarlett and Karrion Kross to Friday Night SmackDown. Up next is This Is My Brutality. Rhea Ripley making the transition and getting drafted to Friday Night SmackDown. I think it goes without saying that Rhea Ripley has drastically fallen off in terms of her importance and her feel of importance and excitement from when she made the jump up to the main roster. You know, from going to WrestleMania 37 and beating Asuka for the Raw Women's title, being one of the final two, I believe, in the 2019 or 2020 WWE Women's Royal Rumble. I mean, you know, like I said, going to WrestleMania, having that great match as the NXT champion, or NXT Women's Champion, against Charlotte at WrestleMania 36. And then, like I said, obviously winning the Raw Women's Championship from Asuka at WrestleMania 37. She needs to a change of pace. She needs to get away from Charlotte. She needs to get away from that god-awful gimmick of Nikki, a superhero, Nikki ASH, more like Nikki ASS. It needs to stop, and Ripley needs to bring her brutality to Friday nights. Up next is a pick I haven't heard many people discuss, and it's a pick that I think needs to be talked about more. That is the team of Trent Seven and Tyler Bate, two halves, or two-thirds, I should say, of British strong style. That is Mustache Mountain making their main roster debut, leaving NXT UK, getting away from NXT 2.0, even though I could see them keeping them down there for a little bit longer. They need to go up to the main roster, and I think SmackDown is the perfect fit for them, along with another draft pick that I have for this brand coming up very soon. I think that Tyler Bate and Trent Seven need to go to the main roster. Imagine Mustache Mountain versus the Usos, Mustache Mountain versus the Street Profits, Mustache Mountain versus the Mysterios. I mean, the list goes on and on. They can have the best tag team matches on the SmackDown brand. They can have some of the best tag team matches in the WWE on Friday nights. I think it would bring a breath of fresh air. I think it would give them more exposure. It would give more exposure to another pick that's going to be right after these guys that would obviously line up with them. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Trent Seven and Tyler Bate, they need to go to the main roster. It needs to happen. They shouldn't be kept down in NXT. They shouldn't be kept in NXT UK. I know with the whole COVID lockdowns, they might not be able to do it just because of the restrictions and everything, but we need Mustache Mountain on the main roster. We need British Strong Style on the main roster, and that starts with Trent Seven and Tyler Bate getting the call up and making their debut on Friday night SmackDowns. So Trent Seven and Tyler Bate to Friday nights. What did we say about British Strong Style? That's right, we need the third member, and that is the Bruiserweight, the former NXT United Kingdom champion, the second ever NXT United Kingdom champion who defeated Tyler Bate to win that title. We need him to join his brothers on the main roster. That is the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. Dunne needs to go up to the main roster. I think it's kind of self-explanatory that he's going to be making the jump in this draft just because of the fact that he didn't win the NXT title on the debut of NXT 2.0. There's no reason that Ciampa got the title and, kept the title, or got the title back and now is having another go with it. It should have gone to Pete Dunne. It should have gone to the Bruiserweight. I know why they gave it to Ciampa, because he is so good as the NXT champion and as a heel, but there's no reason to do it. Peter Dunne, Pete Dunne, Big Boy Pete, a big strong boy, should have gotten the NXT World Championship. He should be the NXT World Champion right now, but he's not. I think he could have a feud with Ciampa, which is why they might keep him in NXT, but he needs to make the jump. He needs to go to Friday Night SmackDown. So the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne to Friday nights. The first pick for NXT 2.0 in my mock draft is going to be the glorious one half of the Dirty Dogs in Robert Roode. That tag team is dead. It's going to be done. It's dead. It's buried, according to my draft. Ziggler is going to stay on Friday Night SmackDown, and then obviously Bobby Roode is going to make the jump over to NXT on Wednesday nights. On Tuesday nights. I think that he needs a refresh. I think he needs to build back up to the heel that he was in NXT. I think he did some great work as the NXT champion. I think you have that glorious theme song, which is iconic. You go have him drop back down to NXT. He can feud with the likes of guys like Austin Theory. He can feud with Gargano if he stays there. He can feud with a bunch of people, and I just think that it's definitely a good idea for Robert Roode to go back down to get a refresh, along with another pick I have to go down to NXT on this list, which most people are probably not going to agree with. I just think it's a good move for Robert Roode. I think Ziggler can thrive as a singles competitor again, as a face on Friday nights on SmackDown, so that's why I wanted to split up one of them, and I don't think Ziggler going to NXT is a good move right at this point, so I think that Robert Roode to NXT, and then you keep Ziggler on SmackDown. It would split up the team, and it would give them both a chance to refresh and rebrand and get some momentum as singles competitors again. So Robert Roode as the first pick for NXT 2.0 in the 2021 draft. My second pick for NXT 2.0 is going to be the one and only, the man that, I guess you can't say the man that Gravity forgot, that was somebody else's shtick, but one of the best high flyers and one of the best in-ring performers in the WWE today in Ricochet. I originally had him on this draft to go to SmackDown. I honestly think that's a great idea. I do. If he goes to SmackDown, I'll be happy as long as he gets used. Ricochet is so good. He's good on the mic. He's decent on the mic, but he's great in the ring. He's absolutely phenomenal. There's no reason why this guy hasn't done more in his WWE career. He did great work in NXT, but I think he has so much more to offer, and the only reason I'm throwing him on NXT is because I think if they bring him down to NXT, he'll have more of a chance to thrive than if they keep him on the main roster. But I do like the idea of him going to SmackDown. That was my original thought. So if anybody's out there going, why are you putting Ricochet on NXT? You're part of the problem. This is wrong. He shouldn't be demoted. NXT for Ricochet is not a demotion. I know he faced Brock Lesnar. I know, and he got beat very, very quickly, and, everything like that, even though he did aid in Brock Lesnar's elimination from the Royal Rumble. But I think NXT is good for Ricochet. I think it would give him a chance to possibly build up his character. Maybe he could become a heel and be King Ricochet like he did on the Indies and PWG and stuff like that. So I like the move to NXT for Ricochet. It would be a shocker in the draft, and I think a lot of people would be happy about it. So let's move Ricochet down to NXT. He could have a feud with Kushida over the NXT Cruiserweight title. He could have amazing matches down there with some of the great up-and-coming talent and some of the established names already who are still down in NXT. It's just a great idea. So Ricochet to NXT. Up next is former Cruiserweight champion, former member of the Hurt Business in Cedric Alexander. I like this move. I like this move a lot for Cedric. I think him going down to NXT and building himself up, having great matches, not being held back on terms of in-ring creativity, and being able to have some of the best matches in his career and be the performer that we know Cedric Alexander can be. I think it's great for him. I thought he was going to do much more as a member of the Hurt Business alongside Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and the leader, who was Montel Vontavious Porter MVP. That didn't seem to happen. It looked like we were going to get a brief feud between Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. That didn't really come to fruition. I think they had one match they might have. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think him going down to NXT, going after the Cruiserweight Championship, going after the NXT North American title, and eventually going after that World Championship is a great idea, and I'm all for it. So Cedric Alexander to NXT. And for my final pick on the draft for NXT in the 2021 mock draft, it's going to be Chad Gable and Otis. They're going to move down to NXT, and I'm really only doing this for one man, and that one man is Chad Gable. I think he should have gone to NXT last year. I think him being a singles competitor, going after the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, going after the NXT mid-card title, having matches with some of the greatest athletes in the NXT and on the NXT brand, if Samoa Joe is able to continue to wrestle, because we know that whole conspiracy with Vince McMahon not wanting Samoa Joe to be the NXT champion and being concerned for his health, quote-unquote, so taking the title off of him. But I think Samoa Joe versus Chad Gable, if Ricochet moves down, Ricochet and Gable can put on some great matches. I think Otis can do well as a singles guy. You start them off as a tag team, and slowly but surely they break away from each other. Gable goes on his own. Otis becomes that dirty, grimy heel that I think he could fit very well with his character. But yeah, I think Otis and Chad Gable, mainly for the reason of Chad Gable getting a singles run and building up his career as a singles guy, should go to NXT in the draft. Yeah, and that's really it, guys. I mean, I obviously, like you can see on the screen, and we talked about it in the beginning, it starts on October 1st on Fox on Friday Night SmackDown, and the draft culminates on the Monday Night Raw episode on October 4th on the USA Network. If you're wondering why I didn't do like a full official draft, it's mainly for the reason that I don't think we need to draft people who are already on the shows. I don't need to draft Roman Reigns to SmackDown when he's already on SmackDown. That is one thing I hate about this draft, is they're drafting people and picking them for their shows when they're already on the show. The first pick of the draft is 100% probably going to be Roman Reigns as the Universal Champion to Friday Night SmackDown. Like, he doesn't have to be a pick. He's already on the show. I hate that, and that's why I didn't do it here. I only did picks for people who are going to go to a different show, who are going to make a change, who are going to swap brands. There is no reason to do picks on people who are already on the show that they get drafted to. It's stupid, it's redundant, and I hate it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I tried to make it as realistic as possible. Don't forget to super kick that like button, and I'm out.